I feel like it would be really helpful for you to kind of walk through some, especially for the people that aren't as like feely, woo, gushy, like whatever. I feel like there's parts of me that feel that. Set up kind of like defining emotion and what you mean with some of those words that you're saying. And as we're going to walk through that in the book, and then even maybe some of like the theological structure behind that.
So we will get into a lot of this in the coming weeks, but just to give you a big picture, that emotions are intuitive feelings that we can't really control often, that come up, that really are very different than reason and knowledge. That reason and knowledge are one thing, and then this feeling that comes up that really might even defy reason and knowledge in us, and also not be completely bossed around by reason and knowledge. That is what we're talking about. The sadness, the joy, the anger, the fear. Yeah. Those 4 are the major ones I talk about in this book, and I believe they are all gifts from God, good gifts from God, every one of them, to help us navigate a beautiful and broken world. And without them, we become shells of who we were meant to be. And so if you're here and you feel like, I'm not an emotional person, I don't know why I need this, and I don't really want to become an emotional person, then I would really challenge that belief, because it is living. I mean, when you think about it, I talk about this a lot, that when you think about watching a really boring documentary with no emotion in it, just facts, just reason and knowledge, and you just watch a documentary, that is really boring. Nobody really is going to last long in that, very few people. But when you think of the most epic and beautiful movies or books you've ever read, movies you've ever seen, when you think of that, they're chock full of emotion on every page and every scene. And the reason they are so good, what draws us into a great story, is the emotion. And so I would just say you're missing your life. Like so much of relationship and connection and appreciation of God and what's happening in the world and what we feel grateful for, all of that originates in our feeling part of our mind. And feelings can show up in a lot of different ways. Primarily in my research, I saw that they showed up in our minds. So they are tied to our thoughts. You can think about your feelings. And certainly a lot of the places they live and are stored, emotions are stored in our minds, but they're also stored in our bodies. And they are stored in your nervous system. They're stored in your muscles. Even when you're tensed up, you can carry emotion in your body. And that's oftentimes why you can see such a tie between disease and emotion. So it's stored in our bodies, it's stored in our minds, it's also stored in our behaviors. And we see this all the time. And this is where it can turn to a sin, right? We're talking about emotion, and it really isn't becoming a sin because you feel sad, because you feel angry, or because you feel afraid. That's not where you sin. You sin usually as a result of one of those emotions. And so certainly our emotions, just like our mind, fell at the fall, and there's a lot of emotional health issues. We're going to talk about those. And I think this is something, though, that God wants to redeem in our lives.